Ian Quigley, senior consultant with the innovative financial advice firm Cube Consulting, presents a breakdown of the 2011 federal budget.
Well, the 2011 federal budget came out about 3 months later than we normally get the federal budgets, but it wasn't all bad news. There was a fair bit of technical loophole busting that was done in the 2011 federal budget, but on a positive side, there was also quite a few fairly small but nonetheless positive bonus items that came out in this year's budget. And so many people have sort of stamped this budget as a status quo, hold to the current economic action plan, no real change budget. But in reality, there's some neat little bonuses that came through this year in the federal budget. And the first one I'd like to point out is sort of the one that's probably caught a lot of the press, which is the children's art tax credit. And if you have a kid who's arty and maybe a little less physical, you might have been irritated a few years ago when they launched the children's fitness tax credit. So in almost a very similar format, they're now offering a tax credit to children that attend artistic, cultural, recreational, or developmental activities. And so if there's a child that is captured in a taxpayer's return who's under age 16 at the beginning of a year, then they can attend a program, and these programs would need to normally be weekly, lasting a minimum of 8 weeks, or if it's a children's camp, lasting at least 5 days. And the tax credit is a 15% non-refundable credit, and it's based on an amount up to $500 of eligible expenses. So really, it's the fitness credit for the arty kids, and it's quite fun and cool. And unfortunately, there's a bit of crossover, so that you can't claim an art credit on the same activity that would qualify for the fitness credit, but you certainly could claim both credits if there's enough expenses that apply. So that's I think just a great expansion of that fitness credit we saw a few years ago. Podcasting this from Alberta, where we've had some devastating forest fires, we're happy to see the addition of the volunteer firefighters tax credit, and this is a new tax credit that came into the 2011 federal budget. It also is at the 15% non-refundable basis, and it's on a flat amount up to $3,000. So any firefighter who volunteers no less than 200 hours in a calendar year and has a written certification from their fire chief, so at least have one available in the event the CRA requests it, can pick up this particular tax credit. And that's a fabulous acknowledgement of the long hours that many volunteer firefighters offer to society. We have a bonus item number 3, I'm calling it, called the Family Caregiver Tax Credit. So starting not this year, but in 2012, they're offering a credit based on a flat amount up to $2,000, which is, again, at the 15% non-refundable basis. And that's offered to caregivers of dependents that have mental or physical infirmities. And it sort of pairs in with all the other dependent caregiver credits as well, and is really an enhancement to that whole area of tax planning. And so it's just it's not a lot, but still some additional funding to those that are giving care to mental or physical infirms. Bonus item 4 is in the medical expense arena, and it's an interesting twist that we weren't expecting. It's under the current rules, a taxpayer under the medical expense tax credit on their federal return can claim medical expenses for spouses or common law partners or their children if they're under age 18. And the amount that you can claim for these other dependents, we'll call them, was capped up until this budget at $10,000. So for some reason, and I don't know the backstory on this, the feds have removed the $10,000 cap on medical expenses of dependents, and that's effective starting this year as well. We have a few more to talk about. The next one is the tuition tax credit now being expanded into examination fees, and this is part of their sort of recent project on improving training opportunities in Canada. And so the tuition tax credit can now extend to fees that are paid to an educational institution, a professional association, or a provincial ministry to take an exam that's required to obtain professional status or to get licensing or certification to practice a trade in Canada. And this also includes some ancillary fees. You'll have to look into that because they get a little technical about what they call an ancillary fee and what they won't allow as an ancillary fee. But as long as the total fee, including ancillary amounts, exceed $100, then you can throw that in as an amount towards that tuition tax credit, which is a very, very minor and small, but at least a nice little enhancement. RESPs in Canada have never been simple, and since they've been launched, they keep revising the legislation and making them more and more complex, and there's no change to that theme this year, but it's a positive change. CRA in this budget, or the feds in this budget, are allowing, there's two types of RESP programs in Canada. More recently, they've allowed pooling of dependents or siblings in an RESP program. But prior to those rules, you would set up an RESP on a segregated basis for each of your children, for your beneficiaries. So now what they've done in this federal budget is they've allowed the pooling that you would have achieved on the newer family RESP structure for the prior segregated structure. So if there's a taxpayer that has multiple RESP accounts for their siblings, they can now access the pooling feature that has been allowed on family RESP programs for a number of years. Another minor adjustment, but it really does, in a sense, make it a lot more feasible for the early adopters of RESP programs not to miss out on some of the enhancements that came later. Finally, we have another small but positive adjustment for low-income seniors. We should do a shout-out on this one as well. The budget's offering $600 in benefits, increased benefits, I guess you could say, for single seniors, and $840 for couples. And these are seniors that are receiving GIS and OAS benefits, and they're earning less than, are you ready for it, $2,000 per annum single, or $4,000 per annum as a couple. So if that's over and above the GIS and OAS income. So basically, if they have no income beyond GIS and OAS, then they can pick up this $600 or $840 enhancement. And believe it or not, they're actually doing a phase out of this enhancement. So if you're making over $2,000 per annum or $4,000 for a couple, then they start phasing it out, and they phase it out pretty fast at $4,400 and $7,360. So another small little enhancement for low-income seniors. I'm not sure how far $600 or $840 will go, but I'm sure it's better than nothing on that. So that's sort of a wrap-up of the noteworthy bonus items that came through the 011 budget. And if nothing else, they sort of show the direction that tax policy is going in regards to their incentives enhancements specifically for the taxpayers.